The sign above Mike Bronson's office door had seen better days. Half the lights had burned out, leaving only Huma S. Rule here, visible in the dim corridor of Frontier Station's commercial quarter. The sign matched the man, weathered, functional despite the damage, and completely unconcerned with appearances. Mike leaned back in his chair, boots propped on a desk cluttered with equipment parts, permit forms, and a chipped mug declaring "Humans Rule Here" in bold letters. The mug held coffee so thick it resembled engine oil. 25 cycles of running Death World experience tours had taught him to appreciate the simple comforts. Real caffeine, artificial gravity that mostly worked, and clients who paid on time. "Final booking manifest confirmed, Captain," announced his AI assistant in the drill sergeant voice he'd programmed it with. 5 clients arriving in 43 minutes. Standard waivers signed and filed. "Last tour," Mike muttered, scrolling through the profiles on his tablet. "Let's make it a good one." His retirement asteroid was already paid for. A tiny rock with decent solar exposure and enough water ice to sustain a small hydroponic garden. After this final group, he could finally hang up his combat boots and leave the business of terrifying rich aliens to someone else. The manifest showed a typical mix: a Mibari royal, Prince Clapian, third offspring of the sovereignty; a Grell merchant who'd made his fortune in rare earth metals; a female Pella xenohistorian studying human survival tactics; a retired Durakian commander; and a Trill entertainment streamer with 8 million followers. All species from comfortably civilized worlds where danger had been engineered away centuries ago. All willing to pay obscene amounts to experience authentic human survival conditions for 6 hours. Mike checked his equipment one last time. The prop weapons, loaded with harmless light charges. The pre-programmed emergencies. The safety overrides. Everything was in order for a perfectly calibrated brush with simulated death. Until the proximity alert chimed. "Captain, unauthorized life signatures detected at mining facility KX-12, the AI reported. Mike frowned. The abandoned asteroid mining facility was supposed to be empty. He'd secured exclusive permits for today's tour. He pulled up the sensor readings and felt a chill run down his spine. Those weren't maintenance workers or squatters. The movement patterns, the equipment signatures, these were professional operators, military-grade weapons, tactical formation. And leading them was a heat signature he recognized from 1,000 missions. Drace Blackwell, former Special Forces, former friend, current mercenary who'd sell his skills to anyone with enough credits. "Well," Mike said to the empty room, "looks like the final tour just got a hell of a lot more authentic." The docking bay smelled of machine oil and recirculated air when Mike greeted his clients, each safely ensconced in their species-appropriate environmental gear. Prince Clapian's bubble suit glimmered with royal insignia. Grell's massive frame barely fit inside a reinforced exoskeleton, and the others sported various combinations of breathing apparatus and protective clothing. "Welcome to the end of the galaxy," Mike announced with practiced bravado, or as we call it, home. The Trill, a slender being with iridescent skin, who introduced herself as Cassie, immediately activated her hovering camera drone. "My followers are going to freak when they see this place. So deliciously primitive." Mike suppressed a sigh. "Before we begin, I need to remind you that human spaces are designed by and for beings evolved on a death world. You will experience discomfort. You may experience fear. That's what you're paying for." Commander Dorak stepped forward, his facial tentacles quivering with what Mike recognized as excitement. "I've studied human military history extensively. Your species' capacity for violence is unmatched in the known galaxy. And your ability to survive hostile environments is even more impressive," added Pella, the xenohistorian. Her 8-fingered hands moved constantly, adjusting equipment and taking notes. Mike nodded. "Today's tour will take us through Frontier Station's human quarter, then to mining facility KX-12, where you'll experience a simulated emergency situation. Only the emergency wouldn't be simulated anymore. He needed to get these civilians safely back to the station before they encountered Drace and his team. "Is there danger of actual bodily harm?" Prince Clapian asked, voice modulated through his suit's speakers. Mike's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Not if you follow my instructions exactly." The first stop was the station's machine shop, a cacophony of grinding metal, sparking welders, and shouted instructions. The aliens visibly recoiled as they entered. "Noise discipline is considered optional in human workspaces," Mike explained, raising his voice over the din. "We communicate through multiple sensory channels simultaneously." The Grell merchant winced as a sheet of metal crashed nearby. "Inefficient," he rumbled. "Adaptable," Mike countered. "Each worker knows exactly what's happening across the entire shop, just by the sounds and smells." They continued to the weapons range, where off-duty security personnel practiced with various firearms. The sharp cracks of gunfire had the prince shrinking further into his environmental bubble. "Projectile weapons remain effective even against advanced technology," Mike explained. "Simple, reliable, difficult to counter." Commander Dorak's eyes gleamed with professional appreciation. "No wonder your kind conquered so much territory so quickly." Mike led them through back corridors and maintenance tunnels, narrating as they went. "Humans build redundancy into everything. 3 ways in, 3 ways out. Backup systems for backup systems." He checked his handheld scanner discreetly. Drace's team had spread throughout the mining facility. Whatever they were after. It wasn't small. The mining facility had been abandoned after the asteroid's valuable minerals were exhausted, but it still housed numerous computer systems connected to the station's infrastructure. "Next, we'll board my ship for a short flight to the mining facility," Mike announced, guiding them toward the docking bay where his battered but reliable transport waited. Once aboard, he ran through the safety procedures with mechanical efficiency while his mind raced through contingency plans. His ship had limited defensive capabilities, enough to handle the occasional pirate or debris field, but not a team of professional mercenaries. As they approached the mining facility, Mike made a decision. He'd give them a modified tour of the outer sections, avoiding any areas where his sensors had detected Drace's people. Then, manufacture an excuse to cut the experience short. The airlock cycled open with a hiss as they docked with the facility. Mike stepped through first, rifle in hand. "This weapon fires harmless light charges," he told the group. "During our simulated emergency, you may encounter actors playing the role of hostile forces." The corridors of KX-12 were dimly lit by emergency power, creating ominous shadows. Perfect for his usual scare tactics, but now genuinely concerning given the circumstances. They had barely walked 50 meters when voices echoed from an adjoining corridor. Rough, human voices using military jargon. Not part of Mike's prepared experience. "Breaching charges set on level 3. Moving to secure the mainframe." Mike raised his hand, signaling the group to stop. The playful tour guide persona vanished, replaced by the Special Forces veteran. "Change of plans," he whispered. "We have uninvited guests. Real ones. Follow me, single file, absolute silence." Prince Clapian's environmental suit hummed with sudden anxiety. "Is this part of the—" "No," Mike cut him off. "This is real danger, real humans with real weapons." The group's expressions shifted from excitement to genuine fear as they processed his words. "I thought this was a secure facility," the Grell rumbled, voice dangerously loud. Mike pointed to a maintenance alcove. "In there, now." "Once concealed," he explained in hushed tones. "The facility has been infiltrated by armed personnel. They're not here for us, but they won't hesitate to eliminate witnesses." "Who are they?" Pella asked, her scientific curiosity seemingly undiminished by fear. "Raiders. Mercenaries. Led by someone I used to know." Mike checked his scanner again. "They're focused on the central control systems, which means we can still reach my ship if we're careful." Commander Dorak's military training asserted itself. "Combat strategy?" Mike shook his head. Evasion only. You're civilians, and we're outnumbered and outgunned. This is amazing content, Cassie whispered, her drone hovering silently beside her. My followers. We'll get us all killed if you broadcast anything, Mike hissed. Shut it down, now. For once, the Trill complied without argument, powering down her drone. They backtracked toward the airlock, moving as quietly as possible. Mike led them through service corridors and ventilation shafts, using his knowledge of standard human facility design to avoid the main pathways. They had almost reached the docking bay when disaster struck. A patrol of 3 armed raiders rounded the corner ahead. Mike reacted instantly, pushing the group back behind a bulkhead. But it was too late. They'd been spotted. Hey, who's there? A harsh voice called out. Come out with your hands visible. Mike made quick calculations. 3 opponents, armed but not immediately hostile. 5 civilians behind him, vulnerable and untrained. He stepped out, hands raised, a disarming smile on his face. Just a tour guide, gentlemen, taking some off-worlders through the facility. The raiders, 2 men and a woman, all wearing tactical gear, kept their weapons trained on him. This area's restricted, the lead raider said. By whose authority are you here? Frontier Station Commercial Guild, Mike replied smoothly. All permits filed and approved. He moved slightly, drawing their attention away from where his clients remained hidden. Show me, the raider demanded. As Mike reached slowly for his pocket, he noticed a small canister attached to the wall behind the raiders. Decontaminant spray, pressurized and flammable. One good shot would create a blinding distraction. Actually, he said, hand shifting toward his weapon, I think there's been a misunderstanding. In a single fluid motion, he drew and fired at the canister. It erupted in a plume of white chemical fog. The raiders fired blindly as Mike dove back behind cover. Run! He shouted to his clients, pointing toward an alternative route. Second left, then straight to the airlock. They fled through the corridors as alarms began blaring throughout the facility. The raiders' shouts faded behind them, but Mike knew it wouldn't be long before more converged on their position. Prince Clapian stumbled, his environmental suit's sensory inputs overwhelmed by the chaos. Mike grabbed his arm, steadying him. Filter settings to minimum, he instructed. Focus only on my voice. The Mibari Royal's breathing steadied as he adjusted his suit controls. Thank you, he gasped. The stimulus overload is a normal human environment, Mike finished for him. We live with this level of input constantly. They reached a junction where the corridor split 3 ways. Mike checked his scanner, then cursed softly. Main path to the airlock is blocked. Multiple hostiles. Alternative routes? Commander Dorak asked, his military training evident in his calm demeanor. Mike pointed to a maintenance hatch in the floor. Utility crawl space. It'll be tight for some of you. The Grell merchant looked at the hatch dubiously. My exoskeleton won't fit. Then we need another way, Mike decided. He wouldn't leave anyone behind. Pella stepped forward, 8-fingered hands working quickly on a nearby control panel. If I can access the facility schematics. You can hack human systems? Mike asked, impressed. The xenohistorian's mouth parts twitched in what might have been a smile. I study all aspects of human survival techniques, including your rather simplistic digital security. The panel illuminated with a facility map. Mike pointed to an alternative route that would take them through the mining operations area. Longer, but less likely to be patrolled, he said. Let's move. The mining section was cavernous, filled with abandoned equipment and conveyor systems. The group moved carefully among massive sorting machines and ore processors. Stay close to the wall, Mike instructed. Step only where I step. Halfway across the chamber, voices echoed from an entrance ahead. Mike signaled for everyone to take cover behind a massive ore crusher. They're sweeping the facility systematically, Commander Dorak observed quietly. Military precision. Mike nodded grimly. These aren't random raiders. They're professionals. What do they want? the prince asked. This facility is connected to Frontier Station's main systems, Mike explained. From here, they could access defense grids, communication arrays, docking protocols. A coordinated strike? Commander Dorak's facial tentacles contracted with concern. Possibly. Mike peered around the edge of the crusher. 4 armed figures were methodically checking each piece of equipment, moving closer to their position. He spotted a control panel for the conveyor system nearby. I need a distraction. Casey's iridescent skin pulsed with excitement. My drone? Too obvious. Mike cut her off. They'll shoot it immediately. The Trill looked disappointed but nodded in understanding. I can help, the Grell merchant rumbled. His massive exoskeleton shifted as he reached into a compartment and withdrew a small device. Trade negotiation tool. Creates sensory interference. Mike raised an eyebrow. Illegal in most sectors. The Grell's face remained impassive. Effective in all sectors. Toss it toward the far exit, Mike instructed. When they investigate, we move to the control panel. The merchant activated the device and hurled it with surprising accuracy. It skittered across the floor and came to rest near the opposite doorway, immediately emitting a high-pitched whine coupled with pulsing lights. The raiders turned toward the disturbance, weapons raised. Go, Mike whispered, and the group darted from cover to cover until they reached the control panel. Mike's fingers flew over the keys, bypassing security protocols with practiced ease. The conveyor system hummed to life, belts moving in contradictory directions. At the same time, he triggered an emergency dump of the ore bins. Chaos erupted as tons of rock cascaded onto the chamber floor. The raiders shouted in confusion, their attention divided between the sensory device and the machinery malfunction. Move, Mike ordered, leading his clients toward a maintenance exit while the raiders were distracted. They emerged into a narrow corridor, lined with pipes and electrical conduits. Mike's scanner showed they were now on a path that would circle back to the airlock, avoiding the areas with heaviest raider presence. How did you know which systems to activate? Pella asked, as they hurried along. Standard human mining protocols, Mike replied. Safety systems are designed to be overridden in exactly the same way on every facility. Seems like a security flaw, Commander Dorak observed. Mike shrugged. It's a trade-off. Makes emergency response more efficient. They continued through the maintenance corridors, stopping occasionally when Mike's scanner detected movement ahead. Each time, he found alternative routes, utilizing his intimate knowledge of human facility design. At a junction, they discovered a data terminal. Pella immediately moved toward it. Information could be valuable, she explained, connecting her research device. Make it quick, Mike warned, keeping watch. The xenohistorian's fingers danced across the interface. They've installed jamming arrays throughout the facility. No communications in or out. Blocking distress signals, Commander Dorak surmised. Standard invasion protocol. They've also downloaded defense specifications for Frontier Station, Pella continued, eyes widening. This is more than a simple raid. Mike felt cold certainty settle in his gut. It's the first stage of a major assault. They're establishing a foothold. On a station with over 50,000 inhabitants, Prince Clapian's voice quavered. The casualties would be acceptable to someone like Drace, Mike finished grimly. We need to reach the foreman's office. There's an emergency transmitter there that bypasses standard communication channels. The stakes had just escalated from personal survival to preventing a sector-wide security breach. Mike's retirement plans seemed suddenly insignificant compared to the thousands of lives at risk. We'll need to cross the main processing floor, he told the group. It's exposed, but it's the most direct route. The processing floor was a vast, open space filled with sorting machinery and quality control stations. Without the usual hundreds of workers, it felt eerily empty. Their footsteps echoed despite their attempts at stealth. Halfway across, a voice called out from above. Well, Mike Bronson playing tour guide. Times have changed. Mike looked up to see Drace Blackwell standing on a catwalk overhead, flanked by armed guards. His former comrade looked much the same, tall, scarred face, the confident posture of someone who'd survived 100 battles. "Civilians? Drace?" Mike replied, keeping his voice steady. "That's low, even for you." Drace's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Collateral damage. Nothing personal." "It never is with you," Mike said. He subtly motioned for his clients to spread out, making them harder to target. "What's the job this time? Orbital defense codes? Transport manifests?" "Always the tactician," Drace chuckled. "How about you let your exotic friends leave, and you and I discuss old times?" Mike knew it was a lie. Once Drace had what he wanted, there would be no witnesses left alive. "Here's a counteroffer," Mike called up. "You and your team leave now, and I don't activate the facility's self-destruct sequence." It was a bluff. The mining facility had no such system, but Drace wouldn't know that for certain. Doubt flickered across Drace's face momentarily before his confidence returned. "Nice try. This place has been decommissioned for 3 cycles. All critical systems are offline. You think human authorities would leave a direct link to station infrastructure unprotected?" Mike raised an eyebrow. "There's always a failsafe." As he spoke, Mike was calculating distances and angles. The catwalk controls were just within reach of a good shot. If he could destabilize it. Drace seemed to read his thoughts. "Don't try it, Mike. My team has orders to open fire if anything happens to me." "Just like old times," Mike replied. "You hiding behind superior numbers while I do the actual thinking." Anger flashed across Drace's face, the reaction Mike had been hoping for. "I was always the better soldier," Drace snarled. "Then, why am I still alive while half our unit died following your orders on Taraxis Prime?" Mike shot back, deliberately pressing on an old wound. Drace's control slipped. "Fire!" he ordered his team. Mike was already moving, shoving Prince Clapian behind a sorting machine as bullets peppered the floor around them. "Scatter!" he shouted to the others. The aliens responded with surprising agility, each finding cover behind machinery or support columns. Commander Dorak pulled Pella behind a heavy ore container, while Cassie and the Grell merchant ducked behind a control station. Mike fired 3 precise shots at the catwalk support struts. The metal groaned and buckled, tilting sharply. Drace and his guards scrambled for balance. "The north exit," Mike called to his clients. "Go now!" As they ran, Mike provided covering fire, forcing Drace's team to keep their heads down. The catwalk continued to deteriorate, finally collapsing with a thunderous crash. Drace leaped clear at the last moment, landing heavily on the processing floor. Mike didn't wait to see if his former comrade was injured. He sprinted after his clients, catching up just as they reached the exit. A quick check confirmed everyone was unharmed. "The foreman's office is 1 level up," he told them, leading the way to a utility stairwell. Behind them, angry shouts indicated Drace was organizing his forces for pursuit. They had minutes at best. The stairwell was narrow and steep, forcing the Grell merchant to struggle with his bulky exoskeleton. Mike and Commander Dorak took positions at the front and rear of the group, weapons ready. "Your former colleague seems quite determined," the commander observed dryly. "Drace never could handle being outmaneuvered," Mike replied. "It clouds his judgment." They emerged onto a corridor lined with administrative offices. The foreman's office at the end was larger than the others, with reinforced doors and security protocols. "Pella, I need you to bypass the lock," Mike instructed as they reached the door. "Everyone else, defensive positions." The xenohistorian immediately set to work on the security panel, while the others arranged themselves to cover both approaches to the corridor. "They're coming," the Grell announced, his enhanced suit sensors detecting movement. "How many?" Mike asked. "At least 8, armed, moving fast." Pella's fingers worked frantically on the security panel. "Human encryption is fascinating but ultimately predictable," she muttered. "Almost there." The lock disengaged with a satisfying click. Mike ushered everyone inside and sealed the door behind them. The foreman's office was spacious, with monitoring stations overlooking the processing floor and private quarters beyond. Mike headed straight for a communications console, partially hidden behind a false wall panel. "This connects directly to Frontier Station security," he explained, activating the system. "Emergency channel. Can't be blocked by standard jammers." As he worked, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red emergency lights began flashing. "What's happening?" Prince Clapian asked, his environmental suit's filters struggling to dampen the noise. Mike checked the facility's status displays. "They're initiating a system-wide shutdown, trying to cut off all external communications." The emergency transmitter powered up, but painfully slowly. "Need 2 minutes to establish connection," Mike announced. A heavy impact shook the door. Drace's team had arrived. "Hold them off," Mike ordered, continuing to work on the transmitter. Commander Dorak took charge of the defense, positioning the Grell merchant's substantial bulk directly in front of the door. Pella worked on a secondary console, attempting to slow the shutdown sequence. "I can reroute emergency power," she announced, "but only for approximately 5 minutes." Another impact hit the door, the metal beginning to buckle. Mike finished programming the distress signal just as the door gave way. Drace himself stepped through, weapon raised. "End of the line, Mike," he said, his face a mask of cold determination. Mike stood slowly, hands visible. "It's over, Drace. Signal's already sent." Drace's expression didn't change. "Then I'll be gone before they arrive. After I tie up loose ends." His weapon shifted, aiming at Prince Clapian. Mike moved without thinking, lunging forward to tackle Drace as the weapon discharged. They crashed to the floor, grappling for control of the gun. "Get to the emergency shelter," Mike shouted to the others, struggling against Drace's considerable strength. Commander Dorak herded the civilians toward a reinforced door at the back of the office, while Mike and Drace continued their brutal fight. Years of shared training meant they anticipated each other's moves. For every strike Mike landed, Drace countered with equal force. They were evenly matched, but Mike was fighting for others, while Drace fought only for himself. The facility groaned around them as systems shut down one by one. Emergency lights flickered, gravity briefly fluctuated. "You always were too sentimental," Drace grunted, landing a solid blow to Mike's ribs. "Caring about civilians, following rules." Mike rolled with the impact, using the momentum to throw Drace off balance. "And you never understood what we were fighting for," he retorted, sweeping Drace's legs from under him. Drace crashed into a console, shattering displays. He recovered quickly, drawing a combat knife from his boot. "Credits speak louder than principles," he snarled, slashing at Mike with practiced precision. Mike dodged backward, his reflexes slowed by fatigue and age. The knife caught his arm, slicing through his jacket and drawing blood. The wound fueled his determination. He feinted left, then drove forward with a devastating combination of strikes he'd learned in their very first combat training together. Drace recognized the pattern too late. Mike's final blow landed at the base of Drace's skull, a precise strike to a nerve cluster that dropped him instantly to the floor, unconscious but alive. Breathing heavily, Mike secured Drace's weapons and bound his hands with cord, stripped from the damaged console. The emergency light steadied as Pella's power rerouting took full effect. Mike staggered to the shelter door, which opened immediately at his approach. 5 worried alien faces stared back at him. "Is it over?" Prince Clapian asked. Mike nodded, pressing a hand to his bleeding arm. "Defense fleet is on the way. We need to secure the other raiders." "You're injured," Pella observed, moving to examine his wound. "It's superficial," Mike assured her, though the pain suggested otherwise. "Your species' definition of superficial requires revision," the xenohistorian replied dryly, applying a seal patch from her research kit to the wound. Commander Dorak stepped forward. "What's our tactical approach for securing the remaining hostiles?" Mike considered their options. "We don't engage directly. We use the facility against them." He returned to the control panels, bringing up system schematics. We can trigger atmosphere pressure pulses in specific sections, disorient them without causing permanent harm. And security lockdowns to isolate groups from each other, added Pella, joining him at the console. Precisely. Together, they implemented a series of carefully timed system manipulations, oxygen levels fluctuating just enough to cause disorientation, gravity shifting subtly, corridor bulkheads cycling closed to separate the raiders into manageable groups. By the time the Frontier Station Defense Fleet arrived 20 minutes later, most of Drace's team had been effectively neutralized through environmental manipulation rather than direct confrontation. Marine squads swept through the facility, securing the disoriented raiders. The commanding officer, a stern woman with captain's insignia, found Mike and his clients in the foreman's office, standing guard over the still unconscious Drace. "Captain Bronson," she acknowledged with a respectful nod. "Situation report?" Mike provided a concise summary of events, including Drace's apparent plan to breach Frontier Station's defenses. "We'll need statements from all of you," the captain said, looking at the aliens with undisguised curiosity. "Not often we find non-humans voluntarily in a combat zone." "We paid for the authentic human experience," the Grell merchant rumbled. "Captain Bronson delivered beyond contractual obligations." A ghost of a smile touched the Marine captain's lips. That he did. As medical personnel treated the wounded raiders and security teams collected evidence, Mike found himself standing with his clients near the facility's observation window. Beyond the reinforced glass, Frontier Station gleamed against the backdrop of stars. "Is this how humans always live?" Prince Clapian asked quietly. "One moment from disaster, constantly improvising?" Mike considered the question. "Not always. But we're at our best when things go wrong." "Fascinating," Pella murmured, recording his response. Commander Dorak's facial tentacles rippled thoughtfully. "In my 400 cycles of military service, I never encountered anything comparable to what I witnessed today. Not just your combat skills, but your adaptability. The ability to function without protocols," added the Grell. "To make decisions based on immediate circumstances, rather than established procedures." Casey's iridescent skin pulsed with excitement. "My followers will never believe this. Real danger, real heroism." "No broadcasts," Mike reminded her firmly. "Security blackout until the investigation concludes." The trill deflated slightly, but nodded in agreement. Prince Clapian straightened within his environmental suit, a new authority in his posture. The Mabari sovereignty would be interested in establishing a formal relationship with human security forces. Perhaps an exchange program. Mike raised an eyebrow. "You're serious?" "Entirely," the prince confirmed. "What I experienced today, what we all experienced, reveals a significant gap in our preparedness. Our worlds are safe because we've engineered away danger. But the galaxy is not safe." "And humans know how to navigate danger," Pella concluded. Mike looked at each of them in turn. Aliens who had come seeking a controlled thrill, and instead found themselves in genuine peril. They had followed his lead, contributed their unique skills, and emerged not just alive, but transformed by the experience. "What you're suggesting would face significant opposition from your governments," he pointed out. "Humans aren't exactly welcomed in the galactic political arena." "Which is why it must begin as a private initiative," Prince Clapian replied. "A human survival academy, perhaps, with you as its founding director." Mike blinked in surprise. "Me? I'm retiring after this tour." The prince's environmental suit hummed as he stepped closer. "Captain Bronson, I believe today's events demonstrate that retirement would be a waste of your considerable talents." Before Mike could respond, the Marine captain approached with news that transport was ready to return them to Frontier Station. The conversation was temporarily shelved as they boarded the security shuttle. During the journey back, Mike found himself watching his clients with new eyes. They spoke quietly among themselves, occasionally glancing his way with expressions ranging from respect to outright admiration. not the usual response from aliens who'd just survived a traumatic experience with humans. At Frontier Station, they were escorted to security headquarters for debriefing. The process took hours, each client providing detailed statements about the events at the mining facility. Mike's own debriefing was more intense, focusing on his history with Drace and the potential scope of the planned attack. Intelligence officers recorded every detail, their expressions growing increasingly grave. Preliminary analysis of recovered data suggests they were preparing for a major assault on the station. The senior intelligence officer informed him, "Your actions likely saved thousands of lives." Mike accepted this with a nod. It didn't change his retirement plans. One last heroic act seemed a fitting end to his career. When the debriefings concluded, he found his clients waiting in the outer office. They stood as one when he entered. "Captain Bronson," Prince Clapian began formally. "The offer I made earlier stands. Initial funding for the Human Survival Academy has been approved by my royal treasury." Mike stared at him. "You're serious?" "We all are," Commander Dorak added. "Each of us has committed resources to this endeavor." "I've secured premises in the diplomatic quarter," the Grell merchant rumbled. "More suitable than your current office." "And I've drafted preliminary curriculum based on today's experiences," Pella said, displaying a data tablet filled with notes. "Plus, I'll provide media coverage," Casey chimed in, her skin pulsing with excitement. "Carefully security screened. Of course." Mike looked from one alien face to another, searching for signs of shock-induced impulsiveness. He found none, only clear-eyed determination. "Why?" he asked simply. Prince Clapian's environmental suit hummed softly as he considered his response. "Because today, I learned that my entire civilization has forgotten something essential: how to face the unexpected with courage and resourcefulness. Our worlds call human space the end of the galaxy," Commander Dorak added. "A place of chaos and danger to be avoided. But today, we witness the strength that emerges from living at the edge." Mike felt something shift inside him, the weariness that had driven his retirement plans receding before a new sense of purpose. "I'll need complete operational control," he said, already mentally listing requirements. "And no diplomatic interference." The aliens exchanged glances of satisfaction. "Agreed," Prince Clapian said. "When can you begin?" One cycle later, Mike stood in his new office in Frontier Station's diplomatic quarter. The space was larger, cleaner, and significantly better equipped than his old tour agency. But he'd insisted on bringing certain personal items. His chipped "Humans Rule Here" mug sat on the desk, surrounded by gifts from various alien dignitaries. A ceremonial knife from the Dorakian High Command, a rare crystal from the Mibari Royal Treasury, data crystals containing xenohistorical records from Pella's Research Institute. The sign above his door now read Human Survival Academy in 6 different languages, all lights functioning perfectly. Applications had flooded in from across the galactic community: diplomats, security personnel, scientists, even a few royal heirs seeking to emulate Prince Clapian's transformative experience. The waiting list stretched to 3 cycles. Mike sipped his coffee, still strong enough to strip paint, and reviewed the final preparations for the first class. 20 aliens from 12 species would arrive tomorrow, each expecting to learn the secrets of human resilience. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Captain Varys, the Marine officer who had led the raid on the mining facility. "Director Bronson," she greeted him with a formal nod. "Still just Mike," he corrected her. "What brings you to the diplomatic quarter, Captain?" She handed him a data crystal. "Final sentencing for Drace and his team. Thought you'd want to know." Mike accepted the crystal, but didn't immediately review it. "Life imprisonment." "Multiple consecutive terms," she confirmed. The evidence from the facility computers confirmed their intention to disable station defenses for a larger invasion force. Mike nodded. Setting the crystal aside, Drace's betrayal still stung, But justice had been served. It was time to focus on the future. "I also brought this," Captain Varys added, placing a small package on his desk. "From Commander Hayes." Mike unwrapped the package to find a battered unit patch. The Special Forces team he and Drace had served with decades ago. "He thought it might be appropriate for your new venture," Varys explained. "Teaching others to survive impossible situations." Mike ran his thumb over the faded emblem. "Thank you." After the captain departed, Mike returned to reviewing student profiles. They would arrive expecting a controlled, educational experience. He smiled to himself, remembering Prince Clapian's wide-eyed fear that had transformed into determined leadership. The true lesson couldn't be scheduled or structured. It would come in the moments when plans failed, when systems broke down, when theory collided with chaotic reality. A notification appeared on his screen. The first transport shuttle had docked early. His students were arriving. Mike tucked the unit patch into his pocket, straightened his jacket, and headed for the reception area. As he walked, he mentally rehearsed his opening address. "Welcome to the Human Survival Academy. Lesson 1. Things will go wrong. Lesson 2. That's when humans do our best work."